West of Dead is a cool little indie game from Raw Fury Studios that I stumbled across by accident on Game Pass late one night. I've always loved westerns, the weirder the better, so this game came as a very pleasant surprise. I was expecting a fun, if disposable, arcade shooter, but what I found was a well-crafted concoction that takes a variety of familiar elements and manages to mix them together into something new. You play as an undead marshal, who's apparently a huge Ghost Rider fan, on the hunt for an evil preacher in Purgatory, Wyoming. You're gonna have to shoot your way through a lot of undead cowboys and unholy monsters to reach him. The story bits are few and far between, revealed through fragments of memory you can recover along your journey. These Ron Perlman narrated scenes are short and vague, but are just enough to encourage your imagination to fill in the blanks. The art style, despite its severe Southern Gothic overtones, manages to be both vibrant and colorful, differentiating the levels of Purgatory with minimalist details that suggest more than they reveal. And that's a pretty apt description of the game itself, always showing you more than it's telling you. To oversimplify, West of Dead is a roguelite shooter. You will explore procedurally generated dungeons full of dangerous enemies, collecting treasure, weapons, and new abilities along the way. The maps are fairly simple, and the fast travel portals make it easy to traverse the levels without getting lost and doing a lot of backtracking. When you die, and you will, often, you go back to the beginning and start over. But there are some abilities you keep between runs, and it still provides a sense of progression by letting you gradually unlock the many different weapons and tools in the armory. You'll start off with pitiful firearms like the farmer's shotgun and the busted revolver, but eventually you'll add everything from magic knives to sniper rifles to dynamite to your arsenal. Much like Dead Cells, the more you play, the more variety you add to your game. And that's not all it borrows from the best roguelite of 2018. In West of Dead, you collect two currencies. One is used to buy items during your run, while the other is spent between levels to unlock new weapons, abilities, and charms. Depending on what you can find and equip, your character is capable of a wide variety of playstyles. One run I had a build focused on close combat with shotguns and blades. On another I had a workhorse rifle and some dynamite I could use to pick off foes at a distance. The game has many branching paths that can be discovered by defeating optional bosses throughout the world. But it would be unjustly reductive to label West of Dead as just a Cells clone. What sets West of Dead apart from the other roguelites is its combat. I've seen all of its individual pieces in other games before, but never combined in this way. It's a twin-stick shooter with a cover mechanic. Unlike most other twin-stick shooters, West of Dead is not about blazing away until you've killed everything on the screen. Most guns only hold 2 or 3 shots, requiring a delicate dance of shooting as many enemies as you can before grabbing the nearest piece of cover so you can reload. It makes the combat slower paced and more deliberate because every shot is precious, and even with health upgrades your character is far too fragile to just stand your ground and slug away. But you also can't just pick a safe spot and camp. Pieces of cover get destroyed after a few shots, forcing you to keep moving. Lighting also plays a role in combat. Illumination is scarce in Purgatory, and you can only lock on to enemies that are in the light. You can shoot blindly in the dark, but it's hard to hit much that way. If you light one of the strategically placed lanterns, It will temporarily blind enemies within range, giving you a few free shots. It forces you to plot a path around the various pieces of cover, picking off the weaker targets first, and moving up the food chain while carefully managing your reload time so you don't end up staring down an enemy's barrel with an empty chamber. This combo can lead to moments of explosive action where you manage to dodge a hail of bullets while nailing 6 perfect critical hits in a row before you twirl your smoking pistol as the bodies drop to the ground. As you unlock better weapons and get a better feel for the flow of combat, you will start to feel like a badass. But you will never feel invincible. A trip back to the crypt is always just a mistake or two away, giving the gunfights the visceral thrill of a classic Wild West shootout. I enjoy West of Dead a great deal now, but be warned. It does have a steep learning curve and some pretty savage difficulty spikes, and it will not hold your hand for any of it. It took me 3 days of repeated failure to get past just the 2nd level. I very nearly gave up, figuring this game was just too hard for me. West of Dead teaches its lessons by slamming you into a brick wall until you either figure out a way over or through it. No hints, tooltips, or tutorials. Just figure it out. Sink or swim. This does ultimately force familiarity with the mechanics, but with such a unique combat system, the tutorial definitely could have benefited from a tip or two about how to best use your abilities, not just which buttons to push for them. But in the end, I am glad I persisted through the early frustrations, though your individual mileage may vary. Despite its shortcomings, I stuck with West of Dead because I enjoyed its clever combat system, that tense, tactical push between strategy and quick shooting. The game certainly has room for improvement, but it's a solid foundation to build upon and is already pretty fun. I've lost more than one night to this game, telling myself, just one more run, until the sun comes up. That's everything I have to say about West of Dead. Overall, I can recommend it. I think it's a lot of fun. Be sure to let me know what you think in the comments, and if you have any tips or tricks for making it through Purgatory, hit me up with those as well. Thanks for watching, folks. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.
Some folks are born ill-tempered. For others, anger is a matter of circumstance. Looking at this woman, I favored the first explanation.